And we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PSBTA Technical Webinar Solutions Series. My name is Martha Ellis, and I am the Executive Director for the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association, or the PSBTA. As an association, our primary objective is to work as a FirstNet and user advocate. All first responders and service providers who support response, mitigation, and recovery efforts during emergencies can qualify to use FirstNet. We've created this webinar series in an effort to bring you the most current and accurate information on all aspects of broadband use for public safety personnel, including the latest developments in technology specific to the ecosystem. Today's webinar is the second in a series of 12, specifically designed to not only showcase the network, but many of the FirstNet-approved applications which can be found in the FirstNet app catalog. The FirstNet, built with AT&T Lean-In webinar series, are all about helping you optimize the FirstNet network, assuring the highest level of preparedness and reliable communications. As the wildland season approaches, we want to present applications that could be particularly helpful to you in your response and recovery efforts in what is shaping up to be a very busy summer, complicated by the COVID-19 virus. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items that I need to cover. All attendees have automatically been muted to reduce background noise. Any questions should be submitted directly to us in the questions function, which is located at the bottom of the menu on the right side of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of our presentation, and we will attempt to answer as many questions as possible, yet stay within our allotted hour. We'll follow up with any questions that we don't get answered during the live portion of the webinar after we finish up today. Should you have further questions when the webinar is over, we will also provide the emails for all of the presenters at the end so you can follow up at your convenience. There are also handouts in the panel to the right of your screen that should be downloaded prior to the conclusion of the webinar if you choose to do so. We will feature 3 different applications in our webinar today. Our presenters are Michelle Hardy, who is the Channel Director of FirstNet Government and Education for Fleet Complete, Mike King, Director of Emergency Communications and Fraud Solutions at Esri, Mike Cox, Director of Fire and EMS Solutions at Esri, and Bruce Boland, Director of Marketing for Intrepid Networks. They're here today to bring the FirstNet application catalog to life. They'll discuss their software capabilities, give demonstrations, and share use case scenarios that will be helpful to you in making critical applications decisions for your agencies. In addition to discussing the apps, we also have Steve Devine, Director for FirstNet Strategy and Policy, who will talk about why our nation's most reliable wireless network, FirstNet, is the linchpin to successfully leveraging these kinds of tools. With that, I am going to turn the time over to Michelle Hardy to get us started with our webinar, Harsh 2020 Wildfire Season Predicted, Complicated by COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Martha. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Hardy, and I am the U.S. Director for FirstNet, as well as Government, Education, and Medical at AT&T Fleet Complete. Who's AT&T Fleet Complete? Well, we are a data, GPS, and a lot of informational gathering service. So everyone starts at the core of what we do, which is GPS tracking. And then we look at what else can we do to help different agencies with the data that they need to collect in the field, as well as what can we do as an organization to improve their situational awareness, as well as bringing in multiple data sources and information. And then as we go through Fleet Complete as the core of our business, one of the things that we have really pushed hard for and was launched recently is our FirstNet device. So it is a Band 14 FirstNet solution end-to-end with our FirstNet certified mobile application, as well as our FirstNet ready device. This device has a lot of capabilities, as well as it also has a priority and preemption for our first responders on the Band 14 FirstNet network. It supports ECM for J1939 as well as OBD2, so we'll cover your heavy duty and light duty. And we also offer hardwire for those assets and different things that need that hardwire because it doesn't do JBus. As you see over here on the left, we have a picture of a helicopter. So as you go through Fleet Complete solution, the core of our business every day is to create that mission critical data that is important to you to get your job done and get it done safely. And what we've looked at is different areas of vehicles as well as assets and different things that are in the field during critical times and manage that data in a user interface or through our open API, send that data to another user web, as well as Esri or other partners that we've really put our API integration into and making that one database or that one source that we can help you develop more data. So as you look at a vehicle here, we're going to show you different solutions in different ways really quickly on how we've been able to assist other departments. So whether we're looking at proof of action or water pump on, water pump off, how long was it on for, lights, sirens, capturing that data, and actually GPS timestamping that information, we're really able to capture more than just GPS tracking. And one of our really important things that you saw on that last page I want to touch on is our satellite failover solution. So what are we doing? We're actually improving the GPS telematics solution by making the data available where there is no coverage. So we're actually failing over to a satellite service, and that satellite service is only used during the times where there is not a mobile network. So it's one of those features that is always there, but you rarely use it. But when you need it, it's there for you. So it has a lot of features and functionalities that are going to help transmission that data through over to your dispatching or your user interface. And one of the customers that I wanted to feature, and we're going to talk a little bit about, is our California Office of Emergency Services. They have many different regions and many different areas in which they service the state of California. They have a lot of different assets, vehicles, and different types of apparatuses that they're utilizing in the field. And the data that we're collecting from their vehicles is really the core of the business, right? GPS tracking, where are they? But then we took it to that next level. We added in the satellite failover. We added in this lights and siren monitoring, knowing when and where those are activated. Then we added in an additional service called the panic button. So wherever they're at, if they click that panic button, that emergency actually can be then communicated back to dispatch or the user interface, letting them know that they've initiated the panic button. We're also monitoring their water pump status on or off on the engines. And then we've also really looked at what were we able to do within our solution from going from their previous provider to us. And we really were able to save them a total of $102,000 over 5 years. So we wanted to make sure that we're providing a service, but also giving them a great solution. And I'm going to hand this over just for real quick so we can look at a video. And when you get a chance, if you would like to watch it again later, we are going to include that in this. So let's watch the video.
I first heard about FirstNet through the International Fire Chiefs and Western Fire Chiefs Association. I believe the state of California and my role as State Fire and Rescue Chief was to actually provide leadership and to get us to that next point. And because of that, I went ahead and said, let's get moving on it. One of the first solutions we looked at with FirstNet was Lead Complete. And the reason why we looked at it was really to get a situational awareness where our vehicles were at any given time. We also can tell when the Code 3 package has been activated. We can geofence the apparatus to a given area. When it leaves, we're electronically notified. As we looked at it, we also realized it had a whole bunch of other options. The ability to manage our fleet, to know when a warning light came on, to know how many miles they've been driven, to be able to log it in as well as when the apparatus is pumping and how many hours have been pumped on. In the long run, it's actually going to save us even more money on the maintenance side.
Oh, hello, I was on mute. So I wanted to thank you guys for watching that video. What we're talking about today is just the core of our business is our FirstNet application, right? GPS tracking. And what we're doing is collecting that data, but then on top of that, we're also adding in additional services and data sources that are within the vehicle. So we can collect data for maintenance, mileage, odometer, and all of that information that we're collecting. And we also have a lot of other solutions that are, this is our application that is on the AT&T core network, it's LTE-M. And one of the things that this device does very well is it is an asset tracker. So an asset tracker is something that you can utilize for more than just knowing where your assets are. But this one is a very simple device. You place it somewhere and it gives you environmental data and information out in the field. We also offer a fleet tracker that is wired, and this is a small universal device that you can actually put on trailers, you put it on any type of battery mounted device. So if it's a generator or anything like that, we want to make sure that we have you covered. And we also offer this same device in our battery option. So if you're out there in the field wanting to know where your brush hogs are, when you're out there capturing all this information and knowing at a command station, or if everyone is just taking account of where is inventory, where are they getting ready for that wildland fire season, this actually makes it very easy and seamless. So as we look at our total solution here, one of the big things that we want to make sure we're covering is, are we able to touch different agencies and different people within that department or that agency's needs? So what's important to one person within the department or the agency may be something else for another person within that same agency or department. So we're trying to improve all the data sets and the information gathering and bringing it all together within one user interface while offering that open API that you can utilize for your other data sources. And right here, this is something that I wanted to make sure that we go through quickly, is an invite for everyone that's on the call that we are going to be having a fireside chat. That fireside chat is going to be on the 29th. So you just saw Chief Figueres on the video. He will be on that event as well coming up. And it's from 3 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. It's an open forum. And there's a link being sent out to you in the chat from our marketing department, and they wanted to let you know that that link will also be sent to you. So check your email after this event. We're also going to have Chief Marshall on. So he is the Cal OES Fire and Rescue Chief. And he's going to also be giving some best features, things that he's been working on with the COVID crisis, as well as things that he's had to change, and really understanding what it is that we can answer for you. So feel free to send us questions ahead of time. And I am going to hand this over. And Mike, I'm going to hand this over to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Michelle. I think I'm taking over the screen now. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. I'm Mike King with Esri, and my colleague Mike Cox will be joining in just a moment. We were asked to just spend a moment and share with you some of the efforts we've had with FirstNet and talk specifically about one particular app, COVID and wildland fire in particular. For those who may not know Esri, we've been around for a while, 50 years last year in business. We have offices all around the world. I think the thing that's kind of exciting is that more than 1 billion maps are being viewed every day on our system, and every state in the United States is an Esri license holder, and 20,000 of the cities. So hopefully many of you on the call are already customers, and that we're providing you the support you need, and that this will be something that hopefully opens your eyes to some other options that might be available. We're unique because 30% of every dollar we earn goes back into research and development. So we really feel like we stay on the cutting edge. We're just preparing for our first digital user conference in a couple of weeks. Usually we get 20,000 people in person to show up for our event each year in San Diego. This morning they let us know that 51,000 people have already registered for the conference. So this is going to be an amazing start to this digital way of doing business that we're all in with Esri. Our apps work on FirstNet, and I guess that's the most important message for you to know. So today, I'm just going to share the fact that you can take your data sources and with our capability create configurable web applications and mobile applications to solve problems in the field. Specifically, I want to share a really cool app that we have called ArcGIS Explorer. It's a product that allows you to view maps anywhere on any kind of device out in the field and to be able to coordinate with people back in the command center. It's configurable and it provides the ability to go in and have real-time data feeds coming in and be able to access your information on the go, including being able to solve problems in the field on the mobile device. It really was developed to help you in this entire phase of field work where we plan, navigate, understand, capture, and coordinate our efforts, all in a system that's built on a platform so that if you have solutions happening in individual silos and buckets, you're able to integrate with that information and share it out to the people that need to know what's available in that particular area. We embrace all of the security standards that are out there, and we frankly love open source, and we try to take advantage of that and make our code available in an open source environment so that people can share intelligence and do better decision making. ArcGIS Explorer, again, is simple. It allows you to search and browse for maps and create maps, to have maps that have not only maybe aerial imagery, but it could be some recently flown drone imagery that's placed on the map and geographically referenced appropriately. Gives you the ability to have a compass to be able to navigate on the fly and measure distances and mark up your maps and share the maps with others. But the really cool thing is it works whether you're connected or disconnected, so that those who get out in the field, especially as we approach wildland season, and you're in a place where you might be disconnected, you're not going to lose the ability to geographically know where you are because of the fact that we'll be able to still show your location on the map in real time. We have the ability to create offline maps to really plan things and then share those with other people. As you create these maps, you have this innate ability to share to other contributors to your event. So even if people show up on the scene that don't have Esri capability, you're going to be able to share maps to them and be able to interact with them out in the field. I want to transition to our coronavirus disease efforts and just let you know, if you are not already, that Esri has invested a huge amount of time and money in creating a COVID-19 resource center. If you've watched any of the news medias, you've seen our dashboards that are created. The one in the upper right-hand corner should look very familiar to you. We are providing hourly updates on COVID transmission and the creep that's occurring with the coronavirus disease. We have a huge data bank that's available of resources that you can access, and all of this is free of charge for anyone, including those of you who may not be Esri customers through our disaster response program, and my colleague's going to talk about that in a moment. But I wanted to announce something we released 2 days ago, and that is a new traditional contact tracing tool. This is a solution that goes on any kind of mobile device and gives you the ability to go out and perform analytics in the field, to be able to understand geographically where COVID cases are occurring, what the contact tracing is telling us, and then to be able to access the information in 2-dimension or 3-dimension. These tools are incredibly powerful, including a new solution that we released just a few weeks ago that allows you, as you have and handle things like major events. I believe Mike will talk about this in a moment. When you're handling fire camps, that you can worry about social distancing and other things and actually map that out and provide some real solid analytics behind your decision-making process. And with that, I just want to say thanks to you all for joining, letting us talk for a few moments about what we've been doing at Esri, and hopefully that you'll reach out to us and lean on us in this really weird time that we're all facing. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chief. I am Mike Cox. I'm your Director of Fire and EMS Solutions for Esri, and I come to you after 27 years in the fire service in the state of Virginia, and I retired there as a Deputy Chief. And I wanted to open briefly with a story of my first exposure to FirstNet support deployments for major incidents. And prior to leaving the fire department and transitioning to Esri, we deployed an IMT, one of the state of Virginia incident management teams, to Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017 for what was at the time a permitted planned protest, which quickly devolved into a civil unrest incident. So as we deployed the IMT, we went through our normal incident management process. We did two things that really stood out as a technology-based solution. And one was we contacted Esri's disaster response program, which Chief King just mentioned. And we also contacted the FirstNet Authority to request support. So the picture you see there on that slide is actually a FirstNet apparatus staged at the Charlottesville, Virginia Fire Department headquarters. So you can imagine thousands of people packed in a small area. That's obviously a stress on our broadband infrastructure. And the ability to deploy these kind of resources really improved the way or added to our capabilities and the way we managed the incident and increased responder safety because we were tracking personnel down to the device level. And as the contingency plans kicked in and we had those incidents within the incident, we were able to actually see our responders on the ground, and the incident commanders and command staff were actually able to put together the task forces or strike teams from available closest appropriate resources that they could see, they could visualize on their operational map. So a very effective method to manage a significant incident, and that translates to disaster response as well. So when we think about a hurricane, an earthquake, or something of that nature, we can see those same capabilities that Mike just described and explore the ability to see the incident operational map, the ability to track personnel, and the ability to communicate between agencies. And that's the strength of having the ability, FirstNet ability to connect and also communicate with multiple agencies. And GIS, Esri, allows you to communicate with your responding partner agencies, regardless of where they're from, what their jurisdiction is, what kind of radio system they're on, or what kind of computer or IT hardware they're using. You can still provide this incident intelligence to those folks that are responding with us. The example we're showing here is actually the response to Hurricane Michael in Bay County, Florida, and Panama City area. And this is the International Association of Fire Chiefs solution for data collection during a response. Now, these applications, as Mike described, work in a connected environment or a disconnected environment, but obviously we would rather have the connected environment. And as an example, a USAR team operating in the field during a 12-hour operational period, the old method was to collect data in a disconnected device. But you think about this, and it was effective. It was a GPS device, and they could certainly lay down symbology on a map. But they spend a 12-hour operational period collecting this data. They go back to the base, they hand the device to the planning section, they process the data, and then that task force leader or that unified command is seeing data that's 12 to 14 hours old. With these Esri mobile applications and with the FirstNet broadband connectivity, you're actually seeing the same data, these same collections, but instead of 12 to 14 hours old, the data is 12 to 14 seconds old. So it obviously improves decision-making, data-driven decision-making, where you can actually see where your personnel are operating, you can see what data they're collecting in real time and get visuals such as pictures or video from the field. The IFC was able to deploy these solutions through over 500 different agencies or stakeholders that were responding into that event. And the data was able to be combined with other response agencies, such as FEMA, the federal USAR system, state and local USAR teams. So the incident commanders were able to see this combined data and the true situational awareness or true common operating picture based on that data being collected in real time. And addressing COVID can use some of these same capabilities as well. So we see again, another example from the International Association of Fire Chiefs. They are collecting data both on exposures to fire and EMS personnel, the firefighters and paramedics, and also the economic impact. So how many of our local government, state government, federal agencies are having to either lay personnel off or reduce the number of personnel in their agencies because of the economic impact of COVID. And when we think about or transition to wildland operations, there's guidance available both from the National Wildland Coordination Group and the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, that applies to wildland operations specifically. And one of the chief concerns is, where do we stage our personnel? where do we have our base or our camp, and how is that established? And the best way to avoid these COVID impacts to our personnel is to avoid exposure. So we can use technology to assist us, and that's actually some of the guidance, is to employ technology to improve the efficiencies in protecting our personnel. And we can do things like daily screenings of our personnel as they show up for the operational period, midway through the operational period, and before they go back to camp or actually leave the incident operational area. And some departments have been doing that for months now. And this is one example out of the Chicago area, Orland Fire District. They're doing surveys of personnel, again, as they show up to work throughout the day and then before they leave. And they're using Survey 123, one of those mobile applications, to collect that data and feeding that data into a dashboard that provides those decision makers real-time data to be able to understand what does their workforce look like and better protect their personnel. So in wildland operations, one of our chief concerns, again, is that base area where our personnel are congregating. And we can use GIS to understand what those plans look like. So when that logistics and facilities personnel are setting up those areas, you can understand where are my footpaths, right? Where are my traffic areas? Where are my pinch points? Where are folks going to be congregating, and help address social distancing requirements based on the assessment, the risk assessment through use of this technology. So we can find some of these off-the-shelf solutions on our solutions page. So you can go to solutions.arcgis.com. There's a section for fire and EMS. There's a section for law enforcement. There's a section for emergency management. And I encourage you to browse that area and find these solutions to deploy to support your personnel, day-to-day operations, disaster response, wildland, whatever the case may be. And if you need direct support, as Mike mentioned previously, we have our disaster response program, and you can see the website there, esri.com/disaster. And that's to provide you 24/7 support for a no-notice significant event or a significant planned event. And this is at no charge, no additional fee, no additional cost to our users. So it's something that I've used throughout my career to support our operations for special events or disaster response. And I'll leave you with our Esri user conference. It's the first time we've gone fully virtual for our user conference. Mike mentioned we already have over 50,000 registrants. So please, take some time. It's about 2 weeks out, and register, and a lot of public safety content will be available to you. And we have some guidance on what specific public safety presentations and use cases are available during the conference. So our contact information is there. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time, or Mike King. And again, I want to thank you for attending, and I will be turning it over to Bruce Dowlen from Intrepid Networks. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike and Mike. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. My name is Bruce Dowlen. I work with Intrepid Networks, and today I'm going to talk to you about response for FirstNet in conjunction with wildfires and COVID-19. The core problem today for mission and business critical organizations is they lack timely and quality information for its members when it's needed most, to enable rapid and accurate decision making, particularly when organizations are trying to reconcile the real ground truth between field users at the edge and those in command centers. So with that, we have developed a response for FirstNet to help you communicate, collaborate, and coordinate more efficiently to enable situational awareness and to fill that operational gap. So first of all, what is Intrepid Response? Response for FirstNet. Response for FirstNet is a web and mobile situational awareness platform for day-to-day emergency operations. I want to take special note to the dashboard here, and notice that we have like 6 large buttons on the bottom. To a lot of our early adopter programs with FirstNet and a myriad of large events like Super Bowl and World Series and over 10,000 plus operations and counting, we have honed this to be a very easy to learn, easy to use platform in there. And these large buttons on the bottom allow a person with gloves to actually, activate these buttons on there. So we've taken great pains to make it very easy to use as a user, as an end user. And then most people take only a few minutes to learn the platform, and they're up and running. With inside the platform, we have 4 pillars. First of all, we have Locate, which is our mapping visualizer. Locate provides a live position of personnel and assets on a Google Map interface, as well as the ability to add static locations of interest, geographic boundaries, or other geospatial data. We also integrate with external GPS sources like Fleet Complete type trackers, and Esri maps. Our second pillar is Intrepid Activate. Intrepid Activate is a very simple to use emergency notification and team mobilization tool that overrides the user's phone sleep settings to produce a very loud push notification. Actually, it's very loud. It sounds like a siren. An instant message and an email, all of which persist every 60 seconds until the user accepts or declines the activation. Our third pillar is Connect, which is our multi-layered workspace that allows secure team communication and collaboration. You can share tons of digital content, including various forms of multimedia, such as Microsoft Office. This would be PowerPoints, Word docs, PDFs. And you can also share snippets of videos and photographs. An interesting thing with the photographs, if you can annotate directly right on the photograph. For example, you could take a picture of a hillside and a structure and draw a circle around a particular area or pinch point, and then share that with the entire team. Also in Connect, we have collaborative whiteboarding, and we also incorporate a robust task and to-do list that have automatic completion acknowledgements. And the fourth pillar, we integrate with leading push-to-talk solutions like AT&T Enhanced Push-to-Talk. You can invoke push-to-talk calls directly from the response dashboard, a map marker to an individual or ad hoc group. So with all this information going around, we had to segregate it to allow for information ingestion to people, not information overload. To use a term, you don't want to fire hose people with information. So to help response users segregate information, we've created channels as a key architectural feature in our platform. Channels only allow invited users to share and view operational data within these compartments or channels. And they also enable organizations to manage multiple groups, operations, departments, sectors, or investigations at the same time, ensuring that data is only viewed and updated by authorized users. Now, talking about all these features is great and all, but the power of this platform is to kind of see how it would work in reaction to a wildfire or COVID in this case here. Due to the situational awareness nature of it being a live event and the time constraints today I'm just going to show you a few screen captures from past events just for today's demo purposes. So let's walk through what a typical event might look like. So in this case, the fire is reported and the dispatcher activates the team using Activate in our platform. The user hears a loud audible alert, gets an instant message, and email notification every 60 seconds until that person accepts or declines the activation. If the user declines the activation, the dispatcher is automatically notified and they can call in another to fill that spot. If the user accepts the activation, their live location is instantly placed on the locate map. They get turn-by-turn directions and any necessary details of the call out to make sure they bring the right equipment. From the locate map, commanders and supervisors can see each team members approaching the scene and can gauge their ETA, allowing them to plan accordingly. And at the same time, teams on the scene are setting map markers. They're defining the black, which is the burnt part, the green, which is the part we don't want to get burnt, and fire lines and structures that they want to defend. Taking photos and videos of fire progression and writing notes on pinch locations, all to determine the best place to combat all this fire. And all of this is being done before the team even has arrived at the scene. Once the team members have assembled, and due to the nature of wildfires, assets in multiple teams can be spread out for miles apart. That's not a problem with response for FirstNet on the FirstNet network. All teams can communicate, collaborate, and coordinate as smaller individual teams or one large team. The supervisor uses channels to segregate information, and they can decide what to share with a larger group, controlling the information flow. So instead of just a radio and basic information, the supervisor now has live location of everybody, every team, every asset. He's getting annotated photos, seeing live conversations between peoples and individuals. He's getting video clips and working with collaborative documents and whiteboards. And he's getting notified of completed tasks. All of this info together is basically enhancing his situational awareness and is allowing for a rapid and accurate decision-making process. Literally, the more you know, the better. Having this advanced situational awareness allows for a coordinated response to any incident/disturbance and getting that vital information to the edge user in the field and bringing everyone on the same page. Now, if a wildfire wasn't bad enough, adding in COVID-19 concerns definitely complicates it. While it may be difficult to social distance each other in times of emergencies, if a team member is diagnosed with COVID-19, you can use the response for FirstNet after action reporting, i.e. the breadcrumbs, to get detailed location tracing of that individual's travels. Who was he in contact with, and what equipment had he had contact with, so you can take the appropriate measures. So with that, we'd like to help your organization communicate and collaborate and coordinate more efficiently with response for FirstNet. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Bruce. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Steve Devine. I'm a director of FirstNet Strategy and Policy with AT&T FirstNet program. I've got a lifelong career of public safety communications, and I want to share some information with you today on the FirstNet Response Operations Group. And then after that, we'll look forward to some questions and comments. FirstNet Operations Group is really a section, a newly created group within the FirstNet program that focuses on its deployables and its resources to meet public safety needs going forward. This is a real high overview, our FirstNet by the numbers. This is a constantly changing document. Over 1.3 million FirstNet connections, 12,000 plus agencies. As mentioned earlier, a number of applications, 100 plus applications and growing in the FirstNet App catalog. FirstNet ready device ecosystem, over 100 devices going forward. There's 76 dedicated deployable network assets that we'll talk about, and that number is actually growing. We're 80% band 14 coverage commitment, contractual commitment completion ahead of schedule. And then there's about over 700 markets with band 14 spectrum in them, and that continues to grow as we're a little over 3 years into our 25-year contract. So really focused on wildfire today, but I want to talk a little bit about COVID, specifically some of the efforts that the ROG program has addressed. January 28th was our initial request for support on COVID-related activities. The ROG program has a no greater than 14-hour response time with regard to outages or coverage issues or events that occur that need additional coverage or capacity. We've had over 450 public safety agencies join FirstNet since COVID has started, and you see the map there of some of the COVID response requests. A lot of those were remote drive facilities and testing facilities. Over 4,700 network assessments where a COVID-related function or event was occurring, and we needed to review internally within AT&T the coverage, and many of those assessments, the result was a response operations group or deployable. So COVID has had a huge impact on all of us, and certainly the response operations program as well. We really consider our objective within the broad program as well as FirstNet overall to really be public safety's direct partner for all FirstNet needs whenever they need it and as they need it. The ROG program really signifies that. The benefits of FirstNet emergency operations, we align our ROG program with the FEMA National Response Framework. It's a federally mandated response model for all public safety. This is really the first of a kind relationship for public safety. We have people who actually sit within FEMA's Network Operations Center, and regular carriers don't do that, but FirstNet actually has a presence in a lot of the state and federal planning solutions with regard to large events and our response to those events. So FirstNet is unique in that sense and continues to change the way public safety operates and the way that they're supported. We've really drastically reduced duplication of effort, even internally within AT&T. There's a single liaison. When there's an event, the state, whether it's a tornado or a hurricane, will reach out to our liaison. That liaison will reach out to our group. will integrate with all the other AT&T departments that can make the deployable assets available and necessary and get them deployed in a timely manner. So there's a great relationship that works internally within AT&T, and we have a single point of contact between each state and that state EOC to get that resource deployed where it's needed to. And we have a handshake relationship with extended primary users as well, DOTs, utilities, et cetera, beyond police, fire, and EMS that also support first responders' needs. This is a great slide. It shows the FirstNet resource that was brought into play in the state of Florida. And as you can see, there's the Florida Office of Emergency Management and other state resources being brought into an area that's been devastated by a hurricane. And the FirstNet resources are in line with the state resources. So we're not waiting for like the other carriers. We're actually integrated into the state's response. So FirstNet has really taken a role that's different from a traditional carrier with response to events, man-made and natural. In addition, California wildfires, we've had a lot of presence and a lot of deployments over the last couple of years. As you know, the wildfires out west have been considerable and they continue to evolve. And FirstNet deployables, there you see a SATCOL. This is a picture from the Camp Fire in 2018 in California and some of the devastation resulting from that. Many of these, both hurricanes and wildfires, will deploy resources. Those resources will stay in effect for months on end until the infrastructure is reconstituted and brought back up to the level that first responders need. So when we deploy these things, it's not just for a couple of days. Many instances, it's several months before they're brought back into service and available for redeployment. Another example of a fire scene and the rugged equipment that's needed. FirstNet network supports a number of rugged devices that users such as this would need in these events. So quickly on our deployables, they're band 14 enabled as well as other commercial bands at times. We have an aerostat called FirstNet 1, which I'll show another picture of here. You'll see the cell on wings, which is a tethered drone. We have several of those that require pilots. Some of these can provide a larger footprint than a SATCOL that you see pictured there on the bottom, but they take a little bit more time to stand up. So those resources are things that we leverage post-event in some instances, where it takes time to get them stood up and established, but they're band 14 enabled. They support voice and data services. Approximately 25 megabit down and 8 megabits uplink. That depends on the number of users and a number of things specifically. We have SATCOLs pre-positioned in some states. You'll see a note there. There's 5 pre-positioned in the state of Texas. And they're deployed across the country, and they're moved into strategic positions during wildfire season, during the hurricanes. You'll see a lot of that movement. This is something that's come about. It's what's called FirstNet 1. It's our aerostat. It's a helium-filled aerostat that can be tethered at 1,000 feet. You see the ground station there. That ground station that you see, that gray ground station in that picture, is similar to what the tethered drones you saw in the previous picture were used as a ground station with satellite backhaul. This can operate at up to 1,000 feet and can have a several-mile radius of operation. So we can introduce this into a post-hurricane area, and then this can provide a larger footprint, freeing up our SATCOL deployments for other areas beyond that footprint. So we're really pleased. The interesting thing about this aerostat as well is not part of our FirstNet contract. AT&T identified an aerostat as being a valuable resource. We've built that, and that's not part of our contract, but it is part of AT&T's innovation going forward to support first responders. So it's a critical piece, and we're looking forward to integrating it into our operations program going forward. Our network is really now the critical link for all public safety as they protect America. Our support for public safety is no longer an elective opportunity. It's an imperative obligation within the FirstNet program. And then quickly, there's also FirstNet Central, which is really kind of the way to get access for FirstNet from the user agency's perspective. It's kind of the administrative hub. They can view network access and usage, manage users, manage uplift, check services and billing, work with their MDM solution, et cetera. And the FirstNet uplift capability is really important. As you notice, uplift is a space or a prioritization level that's made available and left unused. So both extended primary, utility, transportation, as well as primary, police, fire, and EMS, at an incident can be uplifted. Only primary agencies can grant an uplift, but it's available 24/7. Uplift managers with the primary agency can create an uplift event using the uplift request tool within FirstNet Central, that hub that I mentioned earlier. A subscriber can make a FirstNet uplift request on their FirstNet Assist application when they're within 100 miles of an event. So they can be either uplifted or they can make the request themselves. Responder may request uplift. Responders receive a message once their uplift is in play. And then primary users as a default have the highest level on the network, but as you see, primary still has the uplift higher level that they can utilize in the uplift space, as well as with extended primary utility. A great example of that is police need the utility to take the live wire off the roadway so they can open up the road and get it done. So in many instances, extended primary users have as critical roles as primary users at certain instances. So that uplift solution is available for them as well. That's all I have, and I'll turn it back to Martha.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. I will request that all of the presenters now unmute your mic and bring your cameras back up so we can go through some questions. And Steve, I'm going to just start with you since you are present and accounted for. You mentioned the long deployments. Clearly, during the wildfire season, you can have multiple operational periods that can extend for months. How do you determine when the asset can be released? Is this something that FirstNet decides on itself?
Thanks, Martha. Great question. Yeah, the deployment it starts with a liaison with the customer and it continues throughout. So the customer will reach out and say, hey, something's occurred. We'd like you to move it from location A to location B, or it's ready to be picked up. And all of that is a back and forth. It's a dialogue between the FirstNet ROG program, our other entities within AT&T, RAN and NDR, and the customer themselves. So we make sure that the customer is involved in all those decisions. And I failed to mention earlier, there's 76 dedicated resources, the SatColts, the Cell on Wings, and FirstNet One, the Aerostat. But AT&T has hundreds of other deployable resources that aren't FirstNet dedicated that, when needed, we can deploy those as well. So we have a huge cache of capabilities. But to answer to your question, the liaison is always between the customer back and forth. And only when the customer is done and the mission's been completed do we remove the resource and make it available for a deployment in other locations.
Okay, so it sounds like a real collaboration. That's a wonderful information. And you mentioned the SatColt, so that brings me to another question. I'm just going to get you with your two questions right now, Steve. Are there plans to get a cost-effective core connected satellite connection to responder-owned deployables, data, and possible microcell band 14 sites that an agency can self-deploy in cooperation with the FirstNet operation?
So, going forward, there's a lot of things that with regard to 5G, there's network architecture that's changing, and a number of things. Today's deployables have to be managed, and the network has to be. We have to be careful not to deploy a SatColt, for example, in an area where band 14 is already in the macro network. So there needs to be a coordination there. Some of that's done manually today. I can foresee a time in the future where that can be done automatically. That would require some network advancement and capabilities where the network would see that deployment and automatically make adjustments to the rest of the network to accommodate that. With 5G and some things going forward, I don't see that as being a possibility. We're not there yet today. But COAM, or customer-owned and maintained resources, really, if they're going to be effective, they really need to be done when the customer needs them, and subsequently the network needs to automatically kind of sense that and do so. We don't want to make that COAM deployment something that's debilitating to the customer. So the network would need to be advanced to the capabilities of automatically sensing that and adjusting the rest of the network accordingly. We're not there yet, but I see that as a viable future opportunity and capability.
All right, well, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, Mike, I'm going to direct this to Mike Cox, and I'm going to combine these two questions. I'm not a GIS expert. Can I use Esri? How easy is it for your applications to be configured?
Well, my first comment there is I'm not a GIS expert either.
so I couldn't spell GIS about 10 years ago. It is the ease of use and the uptake by line personnel and the deployment of GIS capabilities is increasing every year, and our AGOL, ArcGIS Online, the cloud-based services, really simplify how we put together either an analysis of existing data or do things like track personnel and be able to push out those situational awareness views or common operating picture views, to a web browser. So if you have access to a web browser, you have access to GIS to do analysis, deployments, or whatever the case may be to help solve your problem. So relatively simple to use. I encourage you to go to Esri.com. There's some online training that's free, and you could start looking into how simple it is to deploy these resources.
Okay, fantastic. And then Mike King, how does Esri feel about open standards versus open source? Oops, you're muted, Mike. Mike, you got to unmute.
We love open standard, and we make all of our code available on GitHub so that people understand how they can access and interact with and work with Esri. Now there's always a little devil in the details in helping bring those all together. But open standards we're absolutely in support of. I really worry about open source because a lot of organizations look to open source and some of the free resources as a way to just help on the budget, which I certainly understand. The challenge is that it exposes data that's really mission critical to the world, and that's where we're seeing cyber terrorism attacks. And so I think we really need to think seriously about this pursuit of doing something because it's cheap and doing something because it's right.
Yeah, it sounds like a real delicate balance. Okay, fabulous, thank you. Bruce, to you, will FirstNet push-to-talk be integrated into Intrepid response?
Yes, we are working with the SDKs now to try to get MCPTT or FirstNet push-to-talk integration into there. As you know, we integrate already with AT&T Enhanced push-to-talk directly from our dashboard in there, and it will be a very similar kind of integration with it. So the quick answer is yes. And
okay. Okay, and then the other question to you, Bruce, is if my agency wanted to do a trial on Intrepid applications for an upcoming event, is there somebody that they could contact to coordinate getting a trial?
Absolutely. Well, you can contact any AT&T rep if you like, and they would be able to access that. And actually, we have I believe it's a 2-month free trial going on the AT&T website. So if you'd like to go there and look under, I believe it's under, Suzette, you might need to help me exactly where that is at, under what tab that is at, but they're able to get 2 to 3 months for free on there, and if they like it, they can adopt it, and if not, no harm, no foul.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, simply go to firstnet.com and you'll find a promotions and offers tab.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Michelle, will Fleet Complete for FirstNet offer priority and preemption?
So with our FT2 Band 14 FirstNet device, yes, it does offer priority and preemption on the Band 14 core network. If you have a existing Fleet Complete device today that's on the AT&T core network, our application is a FirstNet certified application. So on AT&T's network, you could talk to your AT&T rep about what their requirements are for priority, at least on the AT&T network for first responders.
Okay, and then another question to you, Michelle, and this is great. We've got a lot of questions today. With Fleet Complete in my, if my officer vehicle goes out of LTE coverage, does the satellite kick in so my officers have continued connectivity for data and voice in remote locations?
So it will kick in for data to transmit our data packets over the satellite network into our servers. So it automatically fails over to satellite to send our data packets. We don't offer voice services, unfortunately, or any type of voice connectivity over our devices. But for user interface of Fleet Complete, the answer is yes, it will automatically fail over.
Okay, and then the last question is going to go to you, Michelle. With satellite on Fleet Complete, does the user have a dedicated priority on the satellite so it doesn't get oversubscribed?
Yeah, so that's one thing about satellite connectivity. We actually do. Fleet Complete has a priority with our satellite provider, so it does provide that constant connectivity. We set up the ping rate based on satellite usage, so it is obviously more expensive to utilize satellite network than what it is for mobility. So that's why it's considered a failover. You know, you don't want to be using satellite all day long every day. It's quite costly. So it's only when needed that it will actually turn on and utilize it. But yes.
All right, fantastic. All right, well, that concludes the questions. What I'd like to do is just give all of our speakers an opportunity to give a couple of closing comments, and I'll start with Bruce.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you everybody for attending today's presentation. I hope that the Intrepid Networks part where the response for FirstNet was informative, and we look forward to connecting your teams and helping them communicate, collaborate, and coordinate better. Thank you.
Great. Steve Devine.
Thank you, Martha, and thanks everybody on the panel today. It was great information. I learned quite a bit, and thanks to the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association. FirstNet continues to grow and evolve, and we appreciate the opportunity to share some of the details, and we'll look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Steve. Michelle?
I want to thank you, Martha, as well as the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association for inviting us. And I look forward to hopefully getting a lot of you to join our fireside chat at the end of the month with the chief so that we can talk some more. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Mike King.
Thanks, Martha. Thanks, everybody. The only thing I would say is probably most of you are already Esri customers, so take advantage of that and come to the user conference in a couple of weeks. It's available, doesn't matter where you live, and if you register, you'll be able to watch after the fact, even if it conflicts with your schedule. And then I'll turn it over to Chief Cox.
Thanks, Chief, and Martha, again, thanks for having us on today. I'll reinforce, in addition to the UC registration, to please take a moment to explore that solutions page, esri.com/solutions, and our disaster response page. And we are offering ongoing support for COVID response or any kind of public safety response you may need. But a lot of our COVID solutions and support are at completely no charge. So if you need assistance with a COVID specific related, definitely go to that disaster response page and explore that and get some support where you need it, because we're here to help. But thank you again, and have a good day.
And your mic sounds a lot better, Mike.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all to all of our presenters. We really appreciated the time that it took to get your presentations in order and spending the time with us today. We hope that all of you enjoyed our webinar today and felt that it was time well spent. We deeply appreciate your participation. And again, we are the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association, and we want to be your advocate for all aspects of FirstNet utilization. I would encourage you to become a member of our association for $75 a year. You can help support our efforts and to continually bring you cutting edge information about FirstNet, the nation's only fully dedicated mission critical first responder network, and all aspects of the ecosystem that is being purpose built to your advantage. And actually, I will add at this point that just for attending today, we are actually going to gift you a membership for 2020. So spread the word that if you do participate in one of our webinars, that we will give you a free 2020 membership, and we would like to see more people have access to this information. So we're trying to encourage folks to join us through that incentive. So please spread the word, and then visit our webpage at thepsbta.org for more information on the association, becoming a member, our upcoming webinars, and the recordings of all of our previous webinars are also available there. Anybody who's attending or registered today will also receive a link to this webinar as well to review it if they need to. Also consider visiting allthingsfirstnet.com. Their team continually compiles valuable information on FirstNet and the developing ecosystem as well. This concludes our webinar on harsh 2020 wildfire season predicted, complicated by COVID-19. We're taking next week off, but please join us in 2 weeks for our webinar on sharing information and data during a pandemic. Thank you again for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.